the manner in which a skeleton was buried in order to draw about how gender worked in the society that that person once lived in. A person in the future studying this time period would probably know that trans people lived openly, at least in some parts of the world. Trans women actually have lower bone mass on average than cisgender men, even before starting hormone therapies. And scientists would be much more easily able to identify the skull of somebody who had had facial feminization surgery. They wouldn't look at that information and say, oh, that person was really a man, because that wouldn't really tell them much about how that person lived their life. And archaeologists tend to be sophisticated researchers with questions more complicated than, was this a boy or a girl? But even if they weren't, if someone is allowed to medically transition before the start of puberty, their skeleton will develop in a way that is consistent with their lived gender, which is exactly the type of thing that the people yammering about digging up the skeletons want to stop. They don't want trans people living unremarkable lives as ourselves. They want us humiliated for centuries after we're gone, and it's up to us to stop that. Thanks everybody. If you like this video, please follow me and subscribe to my Substack for more. To stop. They don't want trans people.
311. Nice.
Right?
Oh, hello, and welcome to the Transpositions. I'm Bree, and this is Stephanie, and that's Ember, and Carly will be joining us shortly. We are the Transpositions. Welcome to the show. We got a lot to talk about today, and I'm sure everybody's eagerly awaiting to hear our updates on all the chaotic gender discussion that's going on and going freaking mad. The world's on fire everywhere you look. Let's talk about it, gals.
Everything is all about gender in the media, in the news, and all of this, and it's so ridiculous, and I'm fucking sick of it.
Well, I do want to take a second to point out many of us in the community have kindly thoughts and acquaintance with Trevor over on Believe It or Not. And I want to give him props for in his recent video about the Second Commandment. He expressly points out how there is an actual child predator competing on an Olympic team that all the super offended crowd are not talking about because they're too busy talking about gender issues with cis people. Once again, I reiterate, they come after us as a distraction because they don't want to talk about the predators in their own midst.
They come after us as a distraction, and then they just fail to recognize that the people that are getting hurt are cis people.
Not that it would matter. It doesn't matter that cis people or trans people. It's like they don't care until the rifle backfires in their face. Is that?
Yeah. Well, you know, there are a few of them I think that we're going to be talking about.
Well,
about people's backfires.
So DSD.
Yeah.
Is there's been a lot of information floating around about Iman Khalif's chromosomes, and I don't know that there's anything proven about her chromosomes one way or the other, and I wish people would just stop.
Not that anyone knows.
Would stop spreading that misinformation that it was confirmed that it was this or that. Even I'm talking on people defending on both sides there. All we know is that she had a high testosterone level for sure, because that's what she was appealing to the IBA.
Well, that depends. In one tweet, the IBA said that is what happened, and then another one they said that's not what happened. That they did something
in their
else.
statement of the 31st of July. They specifically said it was not a testosterone.
Yeah, but if you look back at their press release at the time, they said it was a testosterone level.
I think we can all agree that the IBA is a bunch of liars and a bunch of religious fanatics and a bunch of Russian mafiosi.
They're pretty damn shady.
They're not honest interlocutors when we have these discussions.
I don't think
right?
they even interlock it.
Yeah,
like-
they don't. They won't even,
Well-
they rejected the appeals, right? I mean, the IBA rejected the appeal.
Yes, and the Court for Arbitration in Sport rejected the IBA.
Yeah, that's
The
nonsense.
IBA appealed the decision of the International Olympic Committee to suspend them as the World Federation for the Sport of Boxing, and the Court for Arbitration in Sport said, no, my dude, you are in fact suspended. You're a bunch of fucking bad people.
There's a lot of shady dealings going on. A lot of money changing hands too, from what I understand. So I hate to sound.
Well,
like
they got all that good Gazprom money's got to go somewhere. So I suppose, your sport could be next.
Yeah. Any one of us could be next. So.
But I can guarantee you that you will not see World Sailing move its offices from Southampton to Hungary as World Athletics did. Just 'cause. Why would you?
There we go. I had to switch something around.
Push the buttons.
Always pushing the buttons. I wish it wouldn't pop up on the screen so the whole audience can see the my backstage array of settings. Y'all can't see how the
little behind the scenes.
y'all
stuff.
can't. I don't need you all to see how the sausage is made, right?
Right.
I mean, I don't mind you all seeing how the sausage is made. I'm talking to the people, the kids at home.
It's adventures in live broadcasting.
Always, it's that it's that same situation it always is, but I have to balance it every time. And if I don't get in here fast enough, there's no time to do the mic check. Sorry, everybody, but
Yeah, Brew was running to put everything together after getting home from work.
Yeah, it's been a day.
In a day.
Yeah, you got a big day coming up, don't you?
Me?
Yeah.
Several, I think.
It's
I've got to move I've got to move shop and move house and move a whole bunch of stuff in about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Over the course of 6 weeks, so I've got a lot of stuff on my plate. I may be in and out. I'm still trying to work out the details. But in the meanwhile, probably the next big day is I've got a regatta coming up on Saturday.
Woo!
It's the Sail Main Regatta. I'm gonna maybe if we have time talk a little bit about what Sail Main is and what it meant to me because it got established right around the time that I was transitioning, and they brought me on, and I was part of the original of the original organization of the organization in a previous lifetime, and meaningful to me, and doing this regatta, which is a fundraiser for the organization, is particularly meaningful.
I'm going to cut you off right there so people stick around to the end to hear the rest of the story. You'd be like Paul Harvey. Because...
That's good.
I think
I do need considerable editing. I am the first to admit it.
Because we're all going to take just a quick moment to examine Andrew Tate's crotch. So I just wanted to show you this.
Oh joy!
Yeah, he's been transvestigated. I guess she forgot to wear her fake, and it's got the eggplant. Because it doesn't look like our boy is packing too much. Yes. The water, I'm sure the water was really cold.
He forgot the Packer.
Yeah.
And I don't mean Green Bay Packers.
You know, there are cis men who also use Packers because they're a little unconfident. Which,
Yeah, which is
I don't know. Maybe Mr. Andrew could use some.
and this bro dude here with his backwards hat, Rob Anderson. I doubt it's his real name, but I told everyone about this a while back. It's all of them. If they are on stage, they're part of the inverted show. In that.
Like what?
Now wait.
And this
Is
picture's
there
been
a version of top surgery that doesn't leave scars? Because how does that happen?
he
You know?
well, if he got on puberty blockers before too much breast developed and he worked out really hard and juiced on testosterone, I'm sure the
Yeah, it's not using the clear.
yeah. But
It's yeah, but it is really ironic how these people are so obsessed with everyone else's genitals, and now an ostensibly straight guy is staring at another guy's junk, looking for a dong.
a transphobic Andrew Tate's super transphobic. He's the guy who, when all the stuff blew up over on the Mr. Beast channel, said that they're groomers because they have a trans person,
Which
on their.
He's the most credible source, of course. Coming from an actual sex trafficker.
Right, from someone who actually does work in the business of abusing women too, And he's not the only one though. Did you know that they transvestigated? You'll know this guy when I pull him up. Hold on. You'll know this one. And the reason I'm bringing these up is last week we did a transvestigation series, and it was all transvestigating like cis women. So I wanted to say it goes both ways. Kyle Rittenhouse says he will not vote for Trump, and then
What do you know? What do you think they'll do when somebody
What happens
says they're not
next?
voting for Trump? What do you think they'll do?
he's a
Oh my
shame.
God! Oh my God!
It's all a psyop, guys. It's all a psyop.
Oh my God! Yeah,
Ah.
this is the thing. It's like today.
Look, they even gave him eyeliner in these
Today,
pictures.
the 45th president of the United States said that the prospective vice president of the United States is big on the transgender stuff.
Yeah, and I got more of that coming in my segment here in a little bit too about
Yeah, you do.
frickin' Trump and his speech. I got a speech in Detroit. I didn't get the speech today, so we can probably look at. I think that's about the most he said. He's talking about Tom Walls. How do you girls feel about Tom Walls? He seems like a Midwestern dad to me.
I mean,
Reminds me of my dad.
Tampon Tim. I
Yeah.
mean, that's how you stop a red wave is with the tampon, right?
I myself am very pleased with the pick. I think that geographic diversity was important, and so Mark Kelly, although he's a great guy, is in Arizona, which is kind of close to California. Pennsylvania is a very key state. It is actually the Keystone State.
That's true.
But Josh Shapiro has got tremendous popularity there, and I think that he can deliver the state to the ticket. But the question is, if he leaves, then Pennsylvania's governor's office is up for grabs, and that's a little worrisome. But Tim Walz, his term as governor is, well, I think he's term limited out, so it's a relatively safe Dem state for state government, and he's an incredibly personable human being with a terrific story and a real talent for delivering that speech. not that Shapiro, if you didn't see Shapiro's speech before introducing the two of them in Pennsylvania, that was a barn burner too. But I'm really happy with the pick. I think it's got all the elements and is also focused on the blue wall of Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And I hope
Well,
it works.
I
I
like.
think it was well thought out.
Yeah, I like. I would have preferred Pritzker, but that's because I'm just being biased because he's from my state. And he's done a lot of good things for Illinois. Whitmer would have been a good pick too, but there was no chance it was ever going to be Whitmer. Whitmer would be a pipe dream because they were never going to have a ticket with two women on it. That's just not
right now.
We're not there yet.
Not there yet.
Yeah. But I think Walz is probably the perfect pick. I mean, the man represents, 99.9% of all that is good in the United States. And, everybody values the military service and the football coach. He's
He's the wholesome boomer.
He's handpicked, But also, we've reported on him before in Good News because he's been doing good things for our community. So his name is not unfamiliar to us.
Yeah. We've actually...
Well, our friend Purple Rhymes with Orange lives in Minnesota and is very, very... It has nothing but great things to say about the state as a safe state for trans people. And shout out to Purple, by the way. Hi, Purple, if you're with
Purple.
us. If you weren't some one of these days.
Yeah. Hello, future Purple.
So...
Well, hello, future Purple.
Here's the thing too about Minnesota. If it comes down to it, that'll be the last domino that falls for trans rights because they have enshrined trans rights into law in Minnesota. So
we have in our Constitution as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So these things will hold up but not every state has it. I don't think Illinois has anything like that. Anything in place like that at this time. Like I said, Prisker's done a lot of stuff, but I don't think that's on the list. But California has it enshrined in their state constitution or whatever too, to say, that they will protect trans youth, and then that's where, if you're like say you're like the richest man in the world, and you have a little company that's run out of there, you decide to move it to the state where the power grid fails all the time, and see how that goes over for you.
So
But I digress.
promise, every time somebody says the richest man in the world or Melon Husk or anything like that, I'm going to just...
Yeah. I gotta say something though. Vivian got me back on Threads. I was like dead on Threads. I was like, I ain't messing with it. I'm done with it. And then she started posting stuff over there, and it's like, you can't see Vivian's post over on Twitter. You can't see Vivian's post anywhere but on Threads. So if you want to see somebody if you want to see a trans girl dunking on her turf dad, he's not even a turf. I wouldn't even call him a turf because there's not a feminist bone in his body. He's more of a turd than a turf.
Her absentee dad, who has been cruel to her entire life.
And she's putting his shit on blast. Like, he's got some custody battle stuff going on that we get to hear about now. Where he's like keeping Grimes' kids from her while he was out partying at the Olympics.
Over on my channel. Remember when we did the whole Elon Musk thing in my segment a couple of weeks ago? I updated that for over on my channel to include the whole Grimes saga, and why are you in Paris when you denied your children a visitation with their great grandmother?
Yeah.
And
they got somebody on hospice care right now. Yeah. What do we got there?
Since you mentioned it, this is a map from the Movement Advancement Project that we've brought up on the show before, which is why I had the link ready. And these are color code, as you might guess. The green states are just the states that are favorable towards trans people. The red states are the ones that are rather negative, and
lighter
then you've got
green
your
and
colors
orange.
in between.
Yeah.
Um,
See, that's what I
yeah,
love
I mean,
about this place. That's what I love about Ember. I asked for a data point, and she's like, "There it is."
Oh, she's all over the data points.
Mm-hmm.
If it's one I have it.
Well, if you like data points, you should join our Discord server. Everybody out there watching this live at home, because we got lots of data points at that. We're approaching 50 peer-reviewed articles regarding transgender. Mostly regarding transgender transitioning and the effects of transitioning, but on other aspects of the livelihood of a transgender person as well that you may be interested in. We vet these articles and papers and everything, so there's nothing. None of this misinformation slips through the cracks. That's why.
Can you scroll over here? I'm a little bit curious as to how come Florida and Utah are orange.
I'm curious as why Maine is only light green.
That's the other thing.
I'm not sure how they tallied their policies, like if it's total number of laws or the quality of the laws, or
because Florida and Utah are like, I don't know how.
I would
old
think
is this?
I would think Florida would be really red, but I'm not. I don't want to say anything because I don't want to. Because I mean, I'm not going to discredit this if it's a credible source. But according to this, we got Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, Minnesota, Illinois, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut,
Rhode Island,
Maryland, and D.C. is the bestest places. And then, Maine, New Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Mexico, and Nevada is reasonable. Which some of these sound right to me, like the Minnesota, Illinois, and the Missouri one sound right to me. The Texas one sounds right to me. Everything across the South does. Everything across the South does except for Florida. I'm actually kind of disappointed to see West Virginia being red like that, considering they were like they seceded from Virginia because Virginia was too much of a red state for them.
basically, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
but then they became...
It's wild, the twists and turns of history. I mean, Ohio, too. Like,
yeah.
Half the trans people I know live in Ohio. Like, what the fuck?
Right. It's that...
Yeah.
It's that Appalachia
Three-quarters of them are trying to get out.
It's true.
There's the Appalachia culture up through there that where men is men and all this nonsense, real toxic masculine culture, but that's in most Western cultures anyway. I don't want to point out that the Appalachian culture is any less inclusive of women, I guess, because there's a lot of girls out there doing playing rough. I mean, that's the problem though. When a girl plays too rough, she becomes a man. That's how it works. I saw it on Fox News. I actually saw on Fox News that if you vote for a woman candidate, then you become a woman.
I saw that
doing
too.
It wrong.
And and when I saw that, I thought, shit.
That saved a lot of money.
It should be that easy, but it's not. Folks out there in TV land, this is another reason why you should distrust Fox News.
I was on Fox and Friends. Jesse Waters, I think is his name. Yeah. He's real cream of the crop. He's just Tucker Carlson stand-in.
Well, the cream of what crop?
Yeah.
The couch?
Gross.
That crop.
That
somebody was making a remark on a cute remark about JD Vance had was making some kind of thing, and they said, he barks a lot, and I said, well, his bark alounger is worse than his bite.
Oh, gals. Wish we could just hang out. We got more show to go and things to run through. Miss Carly will be here. She's popped in with us and confirmed that she's coming in for her segment. She's just wasn't going to make it for the opening panel, but that's all right because we get Ember for the opening panel, and this is all the live Ember that we give you every week. It's just a little drop.
I'm in short supply.
We don't fill you up on. We don't fill your glass on Ember because we want you to savor it, and then we'll get it. We'll get more next week. Okay, that's gonna happen. But Ember, what do you? What's on the agenda for you?
Well, we've got good news, as per usual. Shoot, I can't. I've already started planning out next week's episode.
Yeah,
so
well, that's what I'm saying.
Exactly what I've put in this episode.
Just tell us in general, what do you got going on your channel? Who you talking to? I know you like to talk to people and you do reviews and things.
On my channel, I forget I have one of those sometimes. Let's see. Saturday, Mark Reed's coming over. Debate review. We're covering Professor Dave versus Flat Earth Dave. Okay. That classic debate that should be a ton of fun. On Sunday, Nicholas Lamar Suter from In Time is coming over to have a chat.
Oh, cool!
Yeah, should be pretty cool.
Sweet. Yeah,
I think that's all I've got lined up for sure until next Transpositions.
Excellent. All right, Steph, what are you stepping about on your channel? Anything new?
I haven't been stepping too much on my channel. I like I said, I posted an updated version of what we covered 2 weeks ago, at some point.
You've been working on something with Joe
like
too,
I said,
haven't you?
I'm really tied up trying to sort out life. So between this channel and various other endeavors,
well, that's what I was talking about. I was talking about your thing you're doing with Joe. Aren't you all doing a call-in? Been trying to do a call-in show?
Yeah, well, we did. Joe, the Kentucky Atheist, has been trying to sort of do a Monday call-in thing, and couldn't figure out how to get call-in studio to work. So we worked together and got that going. And I actually have an account with call-in studio, so we might. And one of these things, we might do a. We might do a
call-in show. We might have a thing where you can call us up here, or we might do
not
a thing.
The Pac-Man show, but
the Majority Report. Yeah,
we might do a thing, but like at the end of the show, hey, we call and talk to us, or we might just do a special show. But it's not going to be a regular feature.
Yeah, we'll see if we get
Let us know your thoughts in the comments or in the Discord.
We're really into expanding this channel into there's more programming. This is just the first show that we're doing on this channel until trying to get our legs before we start branching out. We have other things in mind. Growth for the Transpositions in general. It's just the Transpositions Weekly. This is just our weekly show where we get together and do this. But there'll be other things that we have on the agenda. I know we were doing interviews there for a while. I know we've kind of slacked off on those a bit. Carly still brings us interviews almost every show, though. And Ember, you brought us the interview we have Maya, and then you did a review a couple weeks ago. So we're doing like a mix-up of content.
We've got a couple of more. We got a couple more of those in the hopper, I think. So we'll stay tuned. We're working on it.
Yeah, we're also working on additional special guests at some point. Not to spoil any surprises, but keep your eyes peeled.
Indeed.
Yep. All right. Well, this is the part of the show where I get to boot everybody off like I'm Matt Dillahunty.
No.
You're done. You're done, Steph. You're done, Ember. All right. I'm going to I'll be back with you with my segment in just a minute, and then we'll roll things on right along, okay? Don't go anywhere. Here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the TransPositions Weekly. I'm Bree McCune, and I'm just going to take 10 minutes of your time here to talk about one of our presidential candidates. I wish it was one of the ones that I'm feeling positive about, but I want to point out what's being said about trans people on the political scene currently from the Trump-Vance camp. So I really do mourn to bring this to, or loathe to bring this to you, because our guy is off his rocker. But is that the right one? There we go. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. I'll blow this up. We don't need to see that side chat. So Trump made this big, long speech, right? He made this speech that ran for 3 hours and 45 seconds straight. Through most of this, he meanders on about nonsense. But here, in the last 8 minutes, he decides he wanted to talk about trans people. Decides he wants to bring up trans people. So today, this is in Detroit. I think it was yesterday. So today we're gonna have a look at it. I like how when you go to a Trump rally, you always see the most peculiar characters in the background. I'm looking for anybody with a crazy cowboy hat or things like that. They're really weird. They're weird people. I think they packed looking at how many black people are behind him, it seems like they must just pack all the black people at the Trump rally right behind Trump. I don't know. Here we go. Let's hear what he has to say. Okay. This is what the topic he was talking about before, but yeah, here we go. We're going to get into the transgender stuff now at 2:52. So, and that's the thing is, like, even the crime stuff is wrong. The statistics do show that violent crime is like record lows. It's down. Violent crime is down. They'll show you, if you say to somebody, they'll show you pictures of people shoplifting. It's like, okay. All right. You were president for 4 years before. You couldn't. I thought it was bad. You couldn't have done something like that. You don't want to hear. He's muted, but you don't want to hear about it. He's just talking about crime right now. I unmuted him.
Executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content.
Let's hear that again. Every dang time, I have to do no audio first. Don't you guys know how I run this show? I want to hear what he says again.
Become the most beautiful capital anywhere in the world. I could say again, but it's been
it's
so
an improvement over here in
so
Trump.
long. I almost don't want to say again. On day one, I was signed a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual,
there we go,
or political content onto the shoulders of our children. And I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate.
So things like vaccine mandates and hello polio, my dear friend, I've missed you. Does he not know that school vaccine mandates, Trump is old enough to remember polio. Trump is old enough to remember polio. Why is he saying stupid things? I know it's because it's what he thinks they want to hear, but we need vaccine mandates. I think it was racial. Inappropriate racial. Yeah, telling kids that black people were slaves to white people is shaming white people and should be forbidden from schools. Don't you know that? That's the message that we're sending out. Manufactured outrage. Exactly, Pragmatic Crystal.
And I will keep men out of women's sports, if that's okay.
Here he goes. Trump is going to enlighten us about the Olympics. Trump had some thoughts about the Olympics. I don't know if he's watching it down there in Mar-a-Lago, maybe, but I can't imagine he's got anything positive to say about it.
If Kamala Harris gets in, the travesty that is taking place at the Paris Olympics will come to America when we host the Los Angeles Olympics. And
yeah, we do have the LA Olympics coming up, but I do want to stress that the Paris Olympics is fine. I mean, it's fine. There's really nothing. There's no there's no trans people, right? That's for sure. We know that.
And by
I shouldn't say there's no trans people. We have a non-binary runner, but they're not going to care about that. They will still call them her no matter what, because they ran in that category. Trump is a weird dude.
way which I was president, we happened to get it. I was the president. I also got you a thing called the World Cup, which is coming very.
Does the president get you the World Cup and the Olympics and stuff? Isn't there an Olympic committee that votes on what cities and such that they are going to be presenting at?
Very soon. I might as well say it myself because nobody else will say it. But I got them both, and you're going to have a lot of fun with it, I hope. Harris is a radical trans activist, and she is the candidate of letting men beat up women in the name of tolerance. But you look at what...
So, Kamala Harris is the candidate of men beating up women in boxing, I guess. He thinks that if he was president, when the LA Olympics happen, if Iman Khalif tries to box it, he'll have any kind of say whatsoever on whether or not she'll be able to compete. Who does he think he is? He doesn't control who can compete in the Olympics. That's not what a president does.
What's happening over in Paris, it will never happen here. I will never let it happen.
You don't get to control who's in the Olympics, my dude.
I will get all males off your daughter's soccer teams and volleyball teams and get them.
Where is that happening? Where are people asking for this? The only places I've seen where trans girls are wanting to play, it's almost always like a small school where they wouldn't even have enough for two gendered teams, yet alone. I don't know. When I was in school, we had co-ed soccer teams, but I guess that's obviously too much for people to handle these days. They can't even talk about unisex bathrooms because unisex bathrooms are a attack on Christianity. Jesus.
Get them out of your locker rooms once and for all. That's going to be cleaned up, and we will fight to make sure that the LA Olympics protects women and protects girls.
In the Olympics, you can punch your opponent so hard that it changes your gender. True story.
I will fully uphold the Second Amendment, and we will protect innocent life. And
isn't it crazy he starts talking about upholding the Second Amendment after he's talking about trans people in sports? Let's meld that together and see what kind of message we're getting there.
Sure that the LA Olympics protects women and protects girls. I will fully uphold the Second Amendment, and we will protect innocent life, and we will restore free speech in our country. We don't have free speech any longer.
Those were just woven together so gracefully. I'll stop what's happening, or stop trans women from competing in the LA Olympics. I'll uphold the Second Amendment. It's like, yikes on bikes.
And very importantly, I will sue, and this is so, to me, so important, what we've been through in this country. I will secure our elections. Our goal will be one-day voting with paper ballots, proof of citizenship, and voter ID. But until then, Republicans must win. We want a landslide that's too big to rig. Too big to rig.
You had like 80 million votes last time. Doesn't get much bigger than that, and you still didn't win, because more people than that are against you, and less people are with you now than there were back in 2016 when you were something new and different to these people. We've seen what a Trump presidency looks like. We've seen how you turn our country into a carnival. The rest of the world, you say that, oh, they're laughing at us now. They're laughing at us when you weirdos are in charge, right? And you're like, yeah, I want to measure Kamala Harris's skull to see how smart she is. See if she's, she can't be, to see if she's actually black, or she's actually Indian, or she can't be both. It's crazy. It's bonkers.
If you want to save America, get your friends, get your family, get everyone you know, and vote. Vote early, vote absentee, vote on election day, do whatever you want, but you have to vote. And if you want to help us ensure election integrity,
at least he learned his lesson about saying, don't do the mail-in voting.
Please sign up, protectthevote.com, protectthevote.com. So, in conclusion, from Marietta to Macon, from Savannah to Columbus, from Augusta to right here in Atlanta, we inherit the legacy of red-blooded American patriots who gave their
Reading from the teleprompter now.
blood, sweat, and tears.
There's no way Trump knows that many cities in Georgia. I just know that he doesn't know the name of that many cities in Georgia.
To defend our country and defend our freedom. We stand on the shoulders of American heroes who crossed the ocean, settled the continent, tamed the wilderness, laid down the railroads, raised up those great, big, beautiful skyscrapers, won 2 world wars, defeated fascism and communism, and made America into the single greatest nation.
Defeated fascism, I wish. Defeated communism, you wish. Both those things still exist in the world, Donnie. We're not as special as they taught you in school in the 50s, I think you went, grade school in the 50s. So you got a lot of that Red Scare nonsense pumped into your little pea brain, and it's already not big enough to process normal adult thoughts. So I can't imagine that you even know what communism is, get alone how it works, or why it should be scary to you. But I digress. That's the notion of him saying he's going to keep women out of locker rooms. Hold on, I had an article about this I wanted to bring up real quick before I close out my segment. I think it was just in our general chat in here. I think it was. It's been a ways back though. But yeah, Trump was. Surely it hasn't been that long ago. It was the article about him going in the locker rooms. Yeah, he's like, I'm going to keep men out of women's locker rooms. And he like went into was it the Miss Universe pageant locker rooms with naked teenage girls. He just waltzed right in there. Thought that it was a good idea to just get a good look at all these underage children. Basically, it's the Miss Universe, where they like between 16 and 20 or so. Regardless, young women, just like what were on that island that he enjoyed going to. But I digress. Trump is a real danger to the trans community. If you have trans people in your life that you love, if you have just someone you work with that's trans, that you just know, they're just normal people, right? We're all normal, regular people living our lives. Not trying to force you to live your life like me, just trying to live my life like me. Somebody you love is either trans or in the closet as trans, gay, lesbian, bisexual, whatever. Doesn't matter. We're all going to be under the same boot heel unless we stand together for this. So yeah, I'm going full team coconut train from this point forward. So I will save my criticisms for the administration once it's in place. But for right now, that's what we need. So register, vote. Let's make this happen. I'm Bree McCune, and this has been the Transpositions Weekly. All right, I'm going to pull y'all over to watch some Ember here in a minute. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Stand, another trans ban. Good news, everyone! Tonight, the cast review canned. Maine students take a stand. Another trans band struck down. Another ousted bigot clown. Good news starts right now. First up, a federal judge rules that a trans ban discriminates. Duh. From the Associated Press, a federal judge rules that Florida's transgender healthcare ban discriminates against state employees. Chief U.S. District Judge Mark Walker ruled Thursday that the state's ban violated Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which protects employees and job applicants from employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. The lawsuit was filed in 2020 by 3 current and former state employees against the Florida Department of Management Services. The employees had challenged the denial of medically necessary treatment for gender dysphoria under the state's categorical exclusion of coverage for, quote, gender reassignment or modification services or supplies. The plaintiffs are represented by Southern Legal Counsel, the ACLU of Florida, and Legal Services of Greater Miami. Attorney Simone Chris said in a statement, quote, "We are so grateful that the court is holding the state accountable for its facially discriminatory policy that carves out transgender state employees for unequal treatment. There is no non-discriminatory reason for the state to categorically deny coverage of safe, effective, medically necessary treatment only when it is needed to treat gender dysphoria, but not for the treatment of any other condition." Judge Walker wrote in his ruling that health and pension benefits frequently represent a crucial component of an employee's compensation, so the practical effect of denying or reducing such benefits on the basis of sex is to deny the employee an employment opportunity on the basis of sex. Judge Walker found that the treatment of all medical conditions, including gender dysphoria, should be based on the unique needs of the patient rather than blanket exclusions. The court will schedule a trial to determine the amount of the plaintiff's damages. The Florida Department of Management Services and the governor's office did not respond to a request for comments. Next up, students in the state of Maine fight back. From Teen Vogue, more than 200 people recently crammed themselves into an elementary school gymnasium in rural Maine. Bleachers filled to capacity, some folks sat on folding chairs arranged across the floor, and others could only find space leaning against walls. A sea of trans pride flags waved, but the mood was somber as dozens of community members testified until 2 a.m., begging the school board not to eliminate a policy that protected trans students. Scenes like this are playing out across the country as trans children, families, friends, colleagues, associates, medical care professionals, and people with a conscience fight for their right to exist in the face of legislative bigotry. Fueled by vilification in right-wing media and well-funded lobbying groups, 625 anti-trans bills have been introduced in state legislatures in 2024 alone, with 193 of them targeting kids in schools. Despite this daunting situation, grassroots communities are fighting back so that every child can attend school safely and be welcomed in the fullness of who they are. This story from Maine, for example, offers a roadmap for how a town, a rural town, an ostensibly red town, can reclaim power from those who wield it to do harm. From the beginning of the June school board meeting in Maine's RSU 40 district in Union, it was clear that the overwhelming majority of people assembled to support the existing non-discrimination policy. Quite basic in its construction, the ordinance simply translated Maine's LGBTQIA+ legal protections into clear guidance for teachers and administrators. It instructed educators to use the students' correct pronouns, enabled trans students to use the appropriate bathroom, prohibited bullying, and prevented teachers from outing students to their parents. The policy had already been in place for 6 years without incident, yet some board members were still trying to kill it. Repeatedly, the board heard from school staff about the urgent need for this policy. As one social worker bluntly put it, quote, "It would be really super if you could keep the transgender policy in place because it helps us do our job on the ground with the students that we work with. Deleting the policy isn't going to delete the students I work with who identify as transgender. They're still going to be there." Educators tried to gently instruct board members on the facts of gender identity, such as the middle school science teacher who pointed out, quote, "The assertion that only binary male and female exists is simply not science," further pleading to the board that, quote, "policy decisions ought to be based on evidence, research, and objective reality." The simmering confusion and anger many felt about the board's intention was neatly summed up in a librarian's plaintive question. Quote, "Why cause fear and panic in children who are only trying to receive an education?" But the evening's most powerful testimony came from students themselves. One trans student named the stakes very clearly. Quote, "Without the support of this district specifically, I don't think I would be here with all of you tonight," they said. "This policy is single-handedly the main reason I'm able to speak." A ninth grader who presented a petition against the policy change, which was signed by more than 100 students in the district, Riley observed, quote, "It seems our lives at school are about political agendas to some member of this board, not our education." And with a hint of events to come, a high school senior cautioned, quote, "If you hear our views and continue with the removal of this policy, you are showing us, the teachers, the parents, the staff members in this district, that your actions are not truly in our best interest. I suggest you think hard before making a decision that sends this message." When public comment ended, 77 people had spoken in favor of the policy. But in the end, it didn't matter. The board voted to eliminate the policy. In comments defending her vote, board member Jeanette Wheeler offered trans students conversion, not protection. Quote, "I say they're hopeless, and if the trans children could search for something in their lives, my thought is, why not Jesus Christ?" Consider what happened in that gymnasium. A trans teenager had the courage to tell the board that they might have died if it wasn't for the school's affirming policies. The board also heard from a child psychologist who testified to the higher risks of harm, both self-harm and from the community, when there isn't formal support at an authority level for trans students. Teachers and administrators pleaded to keep the policy. Parents of trans and gender nonconforming students begged for compassion. Representatives from nonprofit organizations testified, citing research from the University of Southern Maine showing that LGBTQIA+ students in the state are 8 times more likely to be bullied because of their perceived sexuality or gender expression, and nearly 4 times as likely to consider serious self-harm. These desperate warnings were not heeded. Through their votes, conservative board members pushed a policy forward that research shows increases the likelihood of bullying and serious physical harm. Sadly, these dynamics are playing out across the country as lawmakers enact transphobic laws despite widespread protest. Sometimes it can feel as if queer youth face an unstoppable avalanche. And yet, the parable in rural Maine has a radiant ending because of what community members did next. After bitter disappointment at the hearing, it would have been easy to spend time ruminating on the board's fundamental betrayal of the students it is ostensibly called to serve. Instead, folks got busy. Seeing that there were 4 open board seats but only 2 progressive candidates running, they organized a write-in campaign. Parents, youth, and a coalition of the loving hosted sign painting parties, sent postcards, and knocked on doors, encouraging their neighbors to ink in the name of Leah Ships, a lifelong Mainer and mother of 2 children in the local schools, on their ballots. It worked. Ships was elected by a margin of just 67 votes, defeating a candidate who had tried to get the book genderqueer banned from local schools. In the wake of this election victory, one mother of a trans child said through her tears, quote, "As a parent, I've been so upset about our voices not being enough to protect them. In a moral and just world, her testimony would be enough. The plea of a trans child asking to be treated with basic dignity and respect would win the necessary votes. But we don't have time to wait for the conversion of unwilling hearts. Instead, we must take power and wield it so every queer person hears an unmistakable message. You are not alone. We will fight this, and we will win." But what of the deletion of that crucial policy that protects trans students? After all, the board had already voted. The decision was already made. Not so fast. From the Bangor Daily News. While the previous episode of the TransPositions was airing, Regional School Unit 40, which includes the towns of Union, Warren, Washington, Waldoboro, and Friendship, voted 9-6 to rescind its June decision to delete its protections for transgender students. That means that the policy, which again had been in place for 6 years without incident prior to that June vote, will go back into place for this coming school year. Reverend Benjamin Perry, who authored the Teen Vogue article that we just referred to, lives in Union and said that the board should bring back the protections. Perry said a transgender child in their congregation recently lost their life, and it's policies like the one the school board had erased in June that protected transgender students and let them know that they're safe. Quote, "These are not monumental acts, just baseline assurance that this district embraces the dignity of every child." However, Joshua Blackman, a school board member from Warren, opposed bringing back the protections, saying, quote, "The woke mind virus had infected the district. Thanks to that 9-6 vote, the policy returns to effect. Because when we vote, we win." Next up, an update on that Liberty University story from last week. From WSET, Eleanor Zinsky, the woman fired from Liberty University, said she started working in the IT department in 2023. A few months into the job, Zinsky decided to tell HR that as a transgender woman going through her transition, she was approaching the point where she was planning to legally change her name. The lawsuit said about a month of no response followed before she was called into a meeting with the heads of Liberty's HR and IT departments. The lawsuit states, quote, "Liberty University officials read a termination notice aloud to Eleanor, citing denying biological and chromosomal sex assigned at birth as the basis for her termination, stating a conflict with Liberty University's doctrinal statement that names denial of birth sex by self-identification with a different gender as a sinful act prohibited by God." Zinsky said her decision to communicate with HR about moving forward with the legal portion of her transition was a difficult one. Quote, "I got to a point where I felt like, okay, enough people are treating me with kindness and with God's love. I feel like I can do this." She said the way she decided to send that message was intentionally tactful, without making demands, just informing. But the months-long wait for a response after that was grueling on her mental health. She went on to say that she identified as transgender before even starting at Liberty University, but knew that her name and appearance would mean others would perceive her as a man. To try to fit in the workplace, she continued doing her job that way, by presenting masculine and going by her old, still legal name, rather than openly identifying as a trans woman. She did have 2 coworker friends who she had come out to, and they were supportive. But other than that, she stayed under the radar until she reached the point where official notice seemed prudent. Wyatt Rolla of the ACLU of Virginia said that the termination letter read aloud and sent to Zinsky made one thing very clear. She was being fired specifically and expressly because she was transgender. Title VII, of course, protects employees from facing discrimination in the workplace based on race, color, religion, national origin, and sex. They said, quote, basically, the Supreme Court has said by virtue of discriminating against someone for being transgender, you are discriminating on the basis of sex, which is a violation of Title VII. Zinsky said the moments when Liberty officials read her termination letter to her were devastating. As a Christian herself, she said the implications of being rejected by a nominally Christian organization were hurtful to her at a religious level. Quote, I identify as a Christian, and them casting me out is like saying a sinner can't be a Christian. Even though I don't view being trans as a sin, I know many people do. Eleanor said that she hopes for more than just compensation for her own injury in this case, but that, quote, I hope standing up to Liberty will show that they cannot do this to anyone else. I don't want anyone to ever have to experience what I did, whether it's at Liberty University or any other religious institution. We at the Transpositions wish her Godspeed in this endeavor. Next up, on the other side of the coin and the other side of the Atlantic, a teacher was terminated for overt bigotry. From the BBC, a Christian teacher fired after he misgendered a pupil has lost a high court appeal against a decision to ban him from the profession. Joshua Sutcliffe was found guilty of misconduct while working as a maths teacher at the Sharwall School in Oxford in November 2017. Mr. Sutcliffe's lawyers argued that the Teaching Regulation Agency's order was an unjustified interference with his right to freedom of speech and religion. But British High Court Justice Pepperell said there was no merit in the argument that his human rights had been interfered with. The judge said Mr. Sutcliffe failed to understand or accept the harm that he caused vulnerable children in his class. He said Mr. Sutcliffe did not accept that his right to manifest and express his religious convictions might have to be balanced against his professional duties to treat children with dignity and respect and to safeguard their well-being. After the judgment, Mr. Sutcliffe said, quote, with this ruling, every teacher is at risk if they share their beliefs and views in the classroom. He said he had been a marked man since he dared to express his Christian beliefs in a school, and appeared in the media to that effect. It should also be noted that transphobia is not, strictly speaking, a Christian belief. That is to say, one need not be transphobic to be Christian, and being transphobic is not an entailment of Christianity. You, Mr. Sutcliffe, are just a bigot trying to hide behind Jesus' robe. And if I were a Christian, I would be big mad about assholes like this trying to pull that shit and make my religion look bad. Just saying. Mr. Sutcliffe added that people wanted him to capitulate and say that he was wrong. He's been severely punished for refusing to do so. What a stellar example for the kids. The panel concluded in May 2023 that Mr. Sutcliffe did not treat the transgender pupil with dignity and respect by failing to use his preferred pronouns in class and while appearing on ITV's This Morning, while the UK does have a bit of a reputation for being a bit on the turfy side. Okay, very on the turfy side. It's good to see that they at least have standards high enough to not only terminate a teacher who is conducting abusive and harmful behaviors towards the students without regards for their well-being, purely for his own arrogant righteousness. But when that arrogance is brought to light and held up as being superior to the well-being of students, he is actually barred from the profession. While I don't envy any trans person having to live in the UK right now, I wish our judges here in the US had half those stones. And our top story, the Cass review canceled? From Aaron in the Morning. The British Medical Association, the professional organization representing doctors in the United Kingdom, has called for a public critique of the review and to bar its implementation. Late last month, the British Medical Association voted in favor of a resolution to publicly critique the Cass Review, which has been used to crack down on gender-affirming care for trans youth in the United Kingdom, calling its recommendations unsubstantiated. The organization also voted to oppose the implementation of the review's recommendations. This move comes after a court ruled that the government can ban the use of puberty blockers on an emergency basis, citing the review in its decision. The British Medical Association is an independent union representing 151,000 doctors in the United Kingdom. The group negotiates on behalf of all doctors in the UK and lobbies for best practices in medicine to the UK Parliament. The organization states that, quote, it regularly represents the views of doctors and their patients in Parliament, and it is also responsible for briefing other medical workers and the members of Parliament. The resolution is substantial. It states that gender identity services in the United Kingdom are inadequate, a claim well supported by the extreme wait times of 5 years or more. It asserts that the Cass Review engaged in, quote, unexplained study deviations and, quote, ambiguous eligibility criteria, while excluding evidence supporting transgender care. The resolution references a recent review published by the Integrity Project, currently hosted at Yale University, which condemns the Cass Review for its poor methodology and interpretation of research, not to mention failing to be peer-reviewed, which, by its own criteria, makes it a low-quality piece of information that should not be taken seriously. Lastly, the resolution establishes that the British Medical Association will publicly critique the Cass Review, oppose its implementations, and lobby for continuity of care. The judge's decision that enabled NHS to ban puberty blockers stated that the proven life-saving medication could, quote, cause substantial, albeit unqualified, risks to young patients. This finding is not supported by science and has been found to be untrue in court hearings, even here in the United States. For instance, in the Arkansas decision overturning a trans care ban, a judge ruled that, quote, the adverse health effects of gender-affirming care are rare, and the risks are, quote, comparable with many other medical treatments routinely offered to youth. The organization will now produce a fuller critique of the Cass Review that is expected towards the end of the year. This critique will pay particular attention to the methodological flaws in the review. In the meantime, the organization is expected to lobby strongly against the review's implementation in the United Kingdom. Its opposition could have international repercussions, including in the United States, where politicians have cited the Cass Review to claim that doctors now oppose transgender youth care. The British Medical Association statement concluded by saying, the task group will make recommendations to improve the healthcare system that has for too long failed transgender patients. It will work with patients to ensure the evaluation invokes the old adage in medicine of no decision about me without me. It is time that we truly listen to this group of important, valued, and unfortunately often victimized people, and together build a system in which they are finally provided with the care they deserve. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe. Support our work by becoming a patron at patreon.com/TheTransPositions and reap heaps of benefits! Our meme of the week was posted by Titan Uranus. And if you want to confound transphobic and misogynistic reactionaries with their own irrational contradictions, join us on Discord. Also, if you have good news concerning trans people you'd like to see reported on, you can tell us about it in the Discord as well. For the Transpositions, I've been Ember Belrad.
هذا الشيء، هذا هو السؤال اللي راني نطرح فيه لنفسي أنا بحد ذاتي، نقول علاش حتى الآن، لماذا حتى الآن يصرى هذا الشيء. ما على باليش أنايا. مهم جيت هنايا مركزة على الهدف تاعي وهو الأولمبياد. اليوم راني في نصف النهائي، إن شاء الله نكون في الموعد في نصف النهائي. إن شاء الله يوفقني ربي ونقدر نتحكم في الأمور وباش نجتاز هذه المرحلتين والمرحلة النصف النهائي. أنا نوجه رسالتي لكامل شعوب العالم أنهم يكونوا متمسكين بالمبادئ الأولمبية حسب الميثاق الأولمبي، وابتعاد عن التنمر على جميع الرياضيين، لأنه هذا الشيء يأثر ويأثر كثير وكثير، قادر يدمر ناس، حتى يقتل تفكير وذهن ناس ويفرق شعوب. أنا راني نتواصل مع العائلة تاعي يومين تقريبا في الأسبوع. إن شاء الله ما يكونوش تأثروا بزاف، وهما راهم متقلقين عليا أنايا. إن شاء الله هذه الأزمة هذه تتوج إن شاء الله بميدالية ذهبية ويكون أحسن رد إن شاء الله.
This week, after coming, like I said, Amani Khalif, after speaking to the press just 2 days ago, preparing for a gold medal match on Friday after a week of controversy and a week of just abject ugliness and ignorance. Hello again, everybody. I'm Carly Chardonnay Webb. This is Transposition Sports on these final days of Paris 2024. And oh, what fun we've had, what joy we had, but now it's getting down to the nitty-gritty. And from the beginning, and there are some very special people before we get into the guts of tonight's show that I've got to give some yays to. And the first one of those, Bree, roll the tape. Nikki Hiltz. Yes, that Nikki Hiltz. They got the job done. Hiltz finishing third in their semifinal heat of the 1500 meters earlier today. And with that, Hiltz puts themselves into what will be a very fast and compelling final on Saturday. Hiltz came in at 3:56.17, surprisingly fast. Now, if you don't know the story, later in Transposition Sports, we're going to give you the rundown on what they've done. Oh, by the way, check out Hiltz and gold medalist Tara Davis Woodall won the long jump earlier today. Work it, do it, do it, do it. That was right after the 1500, just before Tara Davis Woodall started. And they needless to say, Hiltz has energy for Saturday. Also, Raven Saunders in the shot put earlier today, putting themselves into the shot put finals coming up tomorrow afternoon. Saunders was a silver medalist at Tokyo 3 years ago, finished second at the U.S. trials, but now they have their eyes on gold and looking fierce doing it. Now, let's take a quick look at the team LGBTQ medal count. As you know, I'm a contributor to Outsports, and every Olympiad, we look at how our LGBTQ athletes are doing. Bree, roll that card if you would. This is what Team LGBTQ has done. The out LGBTQ athletes in the Olympics, if they were one country, would have 30 medals. That would have them tied in the medal count for 7th overall with Italy right now. Now, let's see if we can't get one by them. Now, I have a thing called the Carly Olympics Index. 5 points for gold, 3 points for silver, 1 point for a bronze. And right now, Team LGBTQ is lying 9th, right between Italy and the Netherlands. Of course, the United States, well up front. China in second, France third, followed by Australia, Britain, Japan, and the Republic of Korea. Now, we've all heard of what's happened with Amani Khalif and Taiwanese boxer Lin Yutang this week. There's been a lot of bring it back to me. Like I said, we've heard a lot about those two boxers this week, and there has been a lot of nonsense in regard to these two boxers. Now, I've I've written about it. Anna Fried at Axios has written about it. There's been a lot of information about the IBA last week. Stephanie and I talked about this right here on the transpositions. But even with all the information from so many corners that have shown how much hearsay and hysteria and out and out lies have been brought on this issue, some people haven't got the word. Don't believe me? Bree, roll the tape.
It doesn't get more absurd than the weapon-grade gaslighting we're witnessing at the moment, where we are told to accept that Olympians who have failed gender eligibility tests should be allowed to beat up women in the boxing ring at the Paris Games.
And what I've found, sort of offensive and has struck me as a former female athlete myself, difficult about it and disturbing about it, is the way that so much of it is just based on her appearance as not conforming to sort of traditional female beauty standards. And then just the fact that they're just completely lying that she's transgender when she is not, in fact, transgender.
Okay, I will say this. I blame that Italian lady because she's the one who heavily implied that she lost as a result of her opponent being transgender. Now, I'm not going to sit here and justify J.K. Rowling immediately coming out and not doing enough research. This is part of the problem, is that people want to sling takes and they want to take things at face value. And now all of a sudden, they're like, oh, well, the IBA said it, the International Boxing Association. Nobody knows anything about the background. And of course, there's a political incentive in order to portray that. I guess one of the only reasons I'm willing to cut some slack here is that there have been instances previously in college athletics and elsewhere where transgender athletes were allowed to compete in women's sports. And they're obviously, it's a reality that was created that made it believable in the first place.
I was flabbergasted at the amount of gaslighting going on in the media and by the IOC about the true sex of these two boxers who are competing in women's boxing. They're male. You trust me. I believe you trust me. You wouldn't be listening to this show. Is this fair? Should this be allowed?
I don't think it should be. I've been on the record stating that on many, many occasions. And again, I'm a centrist who leans left. I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm fiscal with my dollars. Okay, make no mistake about it. But I'm socially liberal for the most part. But there are lines that get crossed. And when you talk about women competing against men, particularly in a sport like boxing, it becomes incredibly, incredibly alarming.
We all know what a woman is. A woman is an adult human female. It's XX chromosomes. And the issue is here, as with everywhere else where this is becoming a problem, is that they are elevating this concept of legal sex, which is what would be female on your passport meaning anything, and making it override the reality of biological sex. And the moment that you override the reality of biological sex with legal sex, you obliterate women's rights, and you end up with males punching women on the world stage at the Olympics. It literally just does not work in society. So not only are these women taking the punches, but the rest of us are getting hit with it as well, because once you make it that legal sex is what everybody has to acknowledge, it means that women's sport is no longer a thing. Female-only spaces are gone, and you no longer have the legal right to say that is a man when you accurately see a man.
Boy, transphobia, misogyny, and straight out ignorance. That bus is never late. But in the landscape, there were some voices who actually know what they're talking about. One of those was on Monday. ESPNW's Katie Barnes, the author of Fair Play, was on PBS NewsHour.
Consequence of imprecise language. When people use terms like biological male, quote unquote, and quote unquote man to describe people who are competing in a women's sporting event, especially a combat sports event like boxing, that tends to bring out a lot of emotion from folks. And that is also happening in the wake of just a tremendous amount of emotional and legislative energy being put toward addressing some of these issues in the United States in terms of legislation passing around transgender athletes. And so I really think that bred a lot of confusion and brought out a lot of emotions And sometimes that was used inadvertently, incorrectly, and sometimes folks, I think, weaponized that in this particular case.
Also speaking out this week was professional boxer, trans man extraordinaire, and good friend of mine and of this show, Pat Manuel. Here's what he had to say. Bree, roll the tape.
I wasn't expecting the controversy in Olympic boxing to be surrounding gender this year, but it has served to highlight a number of issues that have been plaguing women's athletics. One of those being the nature of sex verification testing, which has traditionally targeted Black and women of color, often in global South countries, usually initiated because someone pointed to them and said that person looks like a man. And the fact that it has been proven that these testings are inaccurate and difficult because human physiology is actually incredibly complex.
Also ringing in, Cal Calamia, who was the non-binary division winner at last year's New York City Marathon. Cal is also a former Division I track and field athlete, and they also had some very pointed comments about the nonsense that went down. Bree, kick it.
Y'all want to know what Olympic events I'm watching? I'm just watching the disaster of transphobia and misogyny and racism unfold. While I'm so proud of the handful of trans and non-binary athletes that are at the Olympics, there is not a single transgender athlete that's participating on a gender-aligned team, perpetuating a mutual exclusivity between medically transitioning and being an Olympic athlete. Do you know how many trans women I know that should be at the Olympics but can't be there because they've been banned? Watching a trans man set the record straight that he's biologically a female just to defend his right to be there? Are you kidding me? This is a mess. Accusing women of being men because they're excellent, of course defending cis women's right to compete, but also acting like the outrage would be justified if she were trans. The only thing I'm watching is the world make an absolute fool of itself, trying to justify its behavior as anything else but transphobia. Regressing to an asinine male-female paradigm and erasing gender variance entirely. Right, Rio?
That's exactly right, Rio. And it's exactly right, Cal Calamia. The nonsense seems to come in waves, but in many ways, this isn't new. And there's a person I talked to not too long ago named Michael Walters. Now, Michael Waters is a queer historian, and they had a book that came out in June called The Other Olympians: Fascism, Queerness, and the Makings of Modern Sports, that talked about how far back this rabbit hole goes that got us to this point. And this goes back to the beginnings of modern sports and the modern Olympic movement, leading up to the first truly gender-tested, gender-verified Olympics, Berlin, 1936. Michael Walters and I had a nice conversation about this a couple months ago. And here's an excerpt from it where Waters talks about then and how then has led to now. Bree, roll the tape. For those who are about to read it, what are some of the things that is in this work you've done that in a sense can guide us into having these discussions and asking these questions today?
Well, I would say, I think for sort of journalists like yourself, I think maybe there aren't as many questions because I do think there is a group of people that probably know all of what I'm about to say. I think maybe for more general public, my hope is to just show exactly where these policies come from. And I think it's really important to I think this thing happens when something has been around for a while, whereas it feels kind of intrinsic to sports. So I think sex testing has been around for so long that people truly don't remember where it came from and why it came about. And I think it's easy for a casual viewer of sports, even, not a casual viewer of sports, to assume that there's some reason that this exists. And I think what I took away at least is that by mapping out the history, you can actually see the very subjective reasons, including sort of the creep of fascism and these kind of like fascist ideologies that were both literally embodied in a lot of these decision makers. I think you can actually see just how I don't know, just how subjective and poorly thought through the creation of this sex testing apparatus was in the first place. And I think by seeing kind of the rot at the start of that history, you can also see why these policies have been ever changing and kind of bungled and also quite discriminatory. And yeah, I mean, I think what I took away is that, to me, reading this history, I feel like in the 1930s, we had a chance to have a different discussion about how we want to classify sports and how we want to include people in these different categories of sports. And we just didn't have that discussion because I think the people making the policies in the 1930s didn't care enough to have it. Even as the public was expressing this desire to learn more about Weston and Kobeck and about people moving between these different categories of male and female, etc. And we didn't have that discussion. And by not having that discussion and sort of ramming through these policies, I just think advocates for inclusion or just for sports that reflect kind of like the people that exist on this earth, just like the range of people that exist on this earth. I think advocates have just been kind of on the back foot ever since.
And a piece of that back foot landed on trans youth in Ohio on Tuesday. A Franklin County Common Pleas Court judge ruled in favor of HB 68, Ohio's ban on both health care for transgender youth and trans female athletes participating in women's sports from kindergarten all the way through college. Judge Michael Holbrook issued the verdict to immediately remove the temporary restraining order on the ban that he put in place in April. That meant the law went effect immediately. The ACLU filed an appeal right immediately after that announcement. HB 68 has been fought over in Ohio for the last year or so. And as we await the next stage of court action, a lot trans youth in Ohio are looking ahead to a school year with their health care taken away and being taken out of sports. They're probably thinking from Cleveland all the way south to Cincinnati and all points in between, what will they take from us next? Well, I know at least one person who's not taking it lying down. Bree, roll this quote right here from Dara Atkinson, the executive director of Trans Ohio. They said on Tuesday, quote, "Today's decision by the Franklin County Court of Common Pleas is a cruel farce and a slap in the face of what we know to be true. Medical choices for youth belong between parents, youth, and their personal health care providers, and trans women and girls belong in sports with their peers. Despite repeated attempts to reduce and restrict access to support systems and public spaces for trans, non-binary, intersex, and gender nonconforming youth, transgender Ohioans cannot be legislated away. Our youth deserve so much better from our courts, government, and elected officials." End of quote. Now, I do want to take a minute to talk to all the allies out there. There was a lot of smoke and a lot of fire for Iman Khalif and Lin Yuting this week. And there should have been. Two transgender women who are basically being called men by everybody from Megyn Kelly to Stephen A. Smith and every other online anti-trans clickbaiter out there. And that smoke was deservedly so. But I like to see the same smoke for trans youth in Ohio. I'd like to see that same protective energy for them. Hashtag just saying. On the good foot, a special birthday today from a good friend of mine and somebody who's been on these airwaves recently. I just want to let you know about it. Ollie Cleveland, star offensive and defensive lineman for the Northeast region champion, Maine Mayhem. Yes, Bree, you can roll this now. Who was a part of our Pride in Football special last month. No, Bree, roll the tape.
Touch with
Keep the nats down.
over the years anyways.
I said we had Ollie Cleveland as part of our Pride in Football special last month. Well, today is her birthday. She turned 62 years old and is preparing for her 19th season of competitive football. Last year in the WNFC for the Utah Falcons, she was the league's leading tackler. She moved back to her native Maine this year, rejoined the Mayhem, and helped guide the Mayhem to a region championship in the spot in the Women's Football Alliance playoffs. And also, Ollie Cleveland is someone I locked horns with this year and was proud to do so and look forward to again next season. Ollie Cleveland, happy birthday, and can't wait to see you on the field again. And finally on Transposition Sports tonight, earlier we told you, Nikki Hiltz, that's right, they're in Paris, and they are in a hotly contested gold medal final on Saturday. The women's 1,500 meter event will be what could be a potential record breaker. And Hiltz will definitely be in the mix. But to understand the race they're about to go into, let's take a look back at the race they've run. If you don't know who Nikki Hiltz is, here's who they are. Bree, roll the tape. The story of middle distance runner Nikki Hiltz began as a sophomore at Aptos High School, Aptos, California, their hometown. They had a breakthrough season, third place in the 1,600 meters of the California State Finals. 2 years later, 2012, state champion in the event and off on a scholarship to the University of Oregon. But injuries plagued their time as a Duck. In 2014, they transferred to the University of Arkansas to make a fresh start. That fresh start led to finishing second twice at the NCAA championships at 1,500 meters and seeing the elite ranks as a real possibility. In their first full pro season in 2019, they had another coming out party. Gold at the Pan Am Games. First at the USATF 1 Mile Road Championships and setting a course record. Third in the 1,500 meters at the National Outdoor Championships and a berth in Team USA to the World Athletics Finals. But when the world stopped in 2020, their training group broke up and they found a personal revelation. They didn't identify as a cisgender woman. On Transgender Day of Visibility 2021, Hiltz came out publicly as transgender non-binary. In an article in Runner's World magazine, they said, quote, 6-year-old me expressed my gender identity through having short hair, wearing baseball caps, and refusing to wear dresses. I felt most like myself when I was playing football with the boys during recess, when my dad called me Nick instead of Nikki, and when the substitute teachers would mistake me for a boy. Hopes abound for the Olympics. Thanks to COVID, they were in 2021, but at the U.S. Olympic trials, an early race collision bumped Hiltz back to last place and disappointment. The stresses of the season and restarting a life took a toll. That disappointment led to change. It led to a move to Arizona in 2022 and to a new coach in Northern Arizona head track coach Mike Smith, who came armed with a new altitude-based training regimen. It also led to a new focus for Hiltz and a new sponsor who saw their advocacy as important as their athletic results. 2023 was the beginning of a dream. Hiltz won the indoor 1,500-meter national championship, the first non-binary USATF national champion. They snagged their second road 1 mile title, and then 1 week later at the Drake Relays, they backed it up by winning the 1,500. Then it was on to the USATF National Outdoor Championships, with a berth to the World Athletic Championships on the line, and Hiltz's kick did the job.
Here comes Nikki Hiltz! Hiltz in a thing, Mo! Hiltz is gonna do it! Nikki Hiltz is a national champion in the 1,500!
Oh, you thought they were done? Flip the calendar to 2024. Repeat indoor champ at 1500 meters. Silver at the World Athletics Indoor Championships. The first American to medal at 1500 meters in 20 years. And a spring of success that led to the U.S. Olympic trials, a fast race at 1500 with dreams in the balance.
It's Mackay, St. Pierre, and Hiltz. Hiltz is trying to surge to the front. Nikki Hiltz goes to the lead. And Nikki Hiltz is a national champion. Going to Paris.
It's unbelievable. I literally can't believe it. I mean, yeah, this is bigger than just me. You know, it's the last day of Pride Month, and I wanted to run this one for my community. And yeah, this is for all the LGBTQ folks. Like, yeah, you guys brought me home that last 100. I could just feel the love and support.
I'll admit, seeing that face on my TV screen makes me smile. On Saturday, about 8:15 Paris time, twilight descending over the Seine at Stade de France, Nikki Hiltz, young American, the first non-binary and trans American to toe such a line, will take their shot at Olympic glory. It will not be easy because of who's surrounding them in this heat. Among those that they'll have to fight through to win a gold medal will include Kenya's Faith Kipyegon, who won this event in Tokyo in 2021 and last month broke her own world record at 1500 meters. Britain's Laura Muir, the sizzling Scot, will also be in that final. All she did was win a silver in Tokyo in this same event 3 years ago. And on that same July Sunday afternoon, when Kipyegon broke the record, Muir was just a few steps behind in third place. And just in front of her was a very fast Australian who was once a college rival of Hiltz. In fact, beat Hiltz 2 times to win a national championship. Jessica Hull. Then, with the University of Oregon, outlasted Hiltz back then at the University of Arkansas and outran and fought against Hiltz, beat them to a gold medal. So just to let you know the history that they'll be walking into on Saturday night. But win or lose or draw, Nikki Hiltz is already a champion. We're talking about a person who found their truth, struck out for it, then decided, now that I have my truth, I want my sport. And they went after that with guns blazing. It's been a joy watching Nikki Hiltz fight their way to this moment, a moment that they called more than a year ago when they were a national champion and on their way to the world championships. But if someone had told me that Nikki Hiltz would be in this level of the stratosphere, I'd shake my head and say, I don't see it. But I and so many of the doubters were wrong, and Hiltz was right about themselves. A second national indoor championship this year. And then going to World Athletic Championship indoors and getting it done at 1500 meters, becoming the first American to win a medal in the event in an awful long time. And then, of course, who could forget that finishing kick at the Olympic trials? And also, who could forget the smart and tough running they've done to get to this moment? When Nikki Hiltz toes that line Saturday night, Yes, they want to do it for themselves, but I'm going to talk to Nikki directly. Saturday night is your night, and I want you to have fun and live that Olympic dream. Catch that comet by the tail and ride it all the way, perhaps to a gold medal. But even if you don't, just know this: you already are a champion because you run not just for yourself. You also run for a Cece Telfer and a Sadie Schreiner and an Aiden Gallagher and a Veronica Garcia. And I'm proud to say that you run for me as well. Nikki Hiltz, good luck. Godspeed. I'm betting on you all the way to the hilts. For Transposition Sports, I'm Carly Chardonnay Webb.
Wow. Just wow. The coverage tonight is pretty much something special. So many things that I kind of want to run on and on about, but I'm not gonna. I will, though, seeing as it focuses on something near and dear to my heart, which is the topic of my discussion tonight, the great state of Maine. I will back reference to the kids and the people of RSU, of the RSU and Union and Friendship and that area of the Maine coast, because it's the Maine coast. And I want to give a shout out to a wonderful actress by the name of Nicole Maines, who grew up here in the state of Maine and was a trans child. She was supported by her family, and when she was very, very young, she was told by her school district that she could not use the facilities in her school district that aligned with her gender. She and her parents, I believe the ACLU of Maine, sued that school district in 2007. It's a case, Doe versus RSU 26. And as the law does progress rather slowly, the case went up through court after court, appeal after appeal, got to the Supreme Judicial Court, which is our highest court. And in 2014, the Supreme Judicial Court said that Nicole and all other transgender kids in the state of Maine are protected by Maine law under the Human Rights Act. And that may be why the God-bothering people of Union's school board saw the light, because there is legal precedent in the state of Maine whose human rights law was strengthened after Nicole and her family brought this suit, says you can't do that. So, Dirigo is the state motto. It means I lead, and here I am on Casco Bay, sailing that J-24 in front of Portland Head Light in a regatta. This was last year. And I'll be sailing in this regatta on Saturday. And it's a regatta in support, a fundraiser in support of a sailing organization, a community sailing organization that I helped found pre-transition, and that hired me post-transition. And I'm pretty damn pumped to be sailing in this regatta. That's me that's me in the corner right there, you know, driving the boat. I'm really pumped to be sailing in this regatta because today the kids that went through that program that I helped coach, that I helped learn the racing rules of sailing, are now my competitors. And it's really quite amazing what a supportive community can do. When a trans person is embraced and made a part of because of her skills, really quite amazing. How not just that individual trans person can thrive, but how the community can grow. Sail Maine is located on the Portland waterfront on a small little postage stamp of land. It hosts 5 high school sailing teams. It has a summer program where kids from Portland that would never have dreamed of being able to go sailing can go sailing. It's broadening opportunities for every person to access the water and find the joy that you see on my face. And I just realized that you can't see my face right now, and I'm being overly expressive. So here's the thing. It doesn't always have to be about trans things. It can be about people things. It can be about community support and community love. And that's the promise of the future. That is the promise of the future. It's the promise that a kid like Nicole Maines made possible for other kids in 2007. Nicole, by the way, played a character in Supergirl. And Supergirl, the CW's Supergirl series. She is a trans woman and a trans actress, and the character she played, Dreamer, was also trans. So it's not just in sports. It's not just in this or that. It's on the stage. It's on the television. Where acceptance and embracing the incredibly strange diversity of humanity and the hope that that brings is super important. And I think that's what the people that rail against us, that rail against other marginalized groups, fear. They're missing a certain je ne sais quoi. Perhaps the word is power. And they're very much afraid that their power will dissipate. And at the moment, I am very hopeful that with our power, the power to live, the power to maintain, the power to thrive, isn't going to be motivation enough to turn back this tide. And for the Transpositions Weekly, I'm Stephanie Helms.
Here we go. All right. That's been a good show. I was just saying, Carly's like having a whole sports team working for me here at the Transpositions. I don't know what I would do without you, girl. Bringing the heat this week.
I don't know what I'd do without y'all, because y'all let me do. I'm coming on the next month. I'm coming on an important holiday, or rather an important anniversary for me. On Labor Day weekend, 30 years ago, I did my first on-air sportscast working for a TV station in Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh, wow.
That was 30 years ago, Labor Day weekend. Wow. And to have the opportunity to do that in this way and is just mind-blowing, and it's special, and I thank you for just giving me the opportunity and to do it authentically, to be myself and do it authentically and play sports authentically. By the way, I'm wearing my WFA All-American jersey tonight.
Fabulous.
I was a WFA second team All-American this year, so I'm proud that I get to wear my jersey that says yes. I get to wear All-American around my All-American across my chest, and there's a little bit more, and there's some more chest there, I gotta tell you. And, I went there. Yeah, I went there. I'm proud of the
girls.
Yes, I am. I'm proud.
Well, it's only a redefinition of cup size, Carly. It's just
true. But God dang it, it's my cup size. I will take it. Thank you. But no, it's been great to be a part of it. And yes, this has been some wild stuff. It's been a great Olympics, all the way around. I mean, very immensely. I do want to give a shout out to a couple people who are visionaries. Sid Ziegler and Jim Budzinski and John Holmes, who's our executive team, Jim Baczynski, Sid Ziegler, John Holmes, Shelby Weldon, Kenny Schultz, Brian Bell, the entire crew at Outsports, who've really had their fingers on the pulse from Paris, even from across the Atlantic. And also, Sid is actually in Europe right now, so he and his husband are getting the view from like the epicenter. But it's been great it's been awesome to see out LGBTQ athletes. 195 out LGBTQ athletes competed in Paris. 195, it's the largest ever. And 30 medals won. As we said earlier, 30 medals won, tied with Italy for 7th in the medal count. I hope that we get a couple more. I mean, and there's some ample opportunities to get that more.
That closing ceremony, though, is going to be lit with all the LGBTQ people with their gold medal or with their medals.
I mean, it's going to make conservative heads explode. But it's been great to see these Olympics. I mean, just today alone, Sydney McLaughlin of Roni in the 400-meter hurdles. Wow. If I'm old enough to remember Edwin Moses, that's what seeing her on the track feels like.
Oh yes.
I mean that is. I mean we're seeing. If you don't know, by the way, all the younger people don't know who Edwin Moses is, YouTube him, because the dominance that he held over the 400-meter hurdles, I see that in Sydney, and I'll tell you, Sydney again breaking another world record. It just seems like when she wants to turn it on, she breaks a world record. I'd love to see her run a 400 meters without hurdles on it, because I truly believe she can take down that steroid-powered women's world record that you have right now. I really believe she could take 47.60 down, and I'll fight anybody on it. It was great to see Leslie. It was good. It was great to see Leslie Tebogo win the 200 meters. I'll admit I was rooting for Kung Fu Kenny Bednarik, Tara Davis Woodhull. Now, winning the long jump, happy about that. By the way, Tara Davis Woodhull, her husband Hunter, you'll be seeing him compete in a couple weeks in the Paralympics. He's a Paralympic sprinter. He's one of the best in the world. So it seems like the Woodhull household is going to have a lot of precious metal in it in the weeks ahead. But congratulations to Tara. If you didn't see the USA Serbia basketball game, watch it. It was a treat. It shows this is what the dream team in 1992 hath wrought. This is the ultimate gift that the dream team has given. The original dream team gave basketball, because now you're seeing it where you're seeing basketball's better for what we saw today. And basketball's better for what we saw today, because we saw I know the dream team smiling, and I'm pretty sure somewhere Vlade Divac is sitting up and has a big grin in his face, even though Serbia came short. I mean, because honestly, I really believe that the United States and Serbia, for the gold medal, let them play a 7-game series. If all those games are going to be as good as that game was, let them go best 4 out of 7 for the gold medal. Let France and Germany give France the bronze, but say no Serbia, even though I think France will have something to say. That's going to be an electric atmosphere Saturday night for that game, because the United States, as dominant as they've been, this is a little bit different. This is truly a road game in the host country. But that's what these Olympics have been. I mean, there's the Turkish dude who had one hand in his pocket and the other one shoots just fine. You've had so much great stuff, the gymnastics. And
that guy gave some great memes too. The Turkish guy, the memes are great.
You've got memes like crazy, but as much as it, but the one person I really want, but the people I really want to see, I'd love to see Raven Saunders get that shot put, win tomorrow. I'd love to see Amani Khalif win in boxing tomorrow. I'd love to, and it will not be easy. Her opponent is a 2-time world champion. Her opponent is is from China, an excellent fighter. And I really think Khalif is definitely the underdog, but I'd love to see her end this with a win. I'd love to see Raven and Saunders. I'd love to see them win. And then Saturday, it's gonna be in Daytona in Spikes. I call it the Daytona 1500 because that's how good it's going to be on Saturday. And I'll tell you, my head says it'll be Kipyegon. My head says that Faith Kipyegon is running at such a clip that she's virtually unbeatable. But my heart is betting on a miracle at Stade de France. My heart is going to be yelling. I am going to yell for Nikki Hiltz. I am all in. I'm on the Hiltz train, and I think they have a surprise in store for us. They're going to be ready, and I can see that. I mean, I can see that. I think if Nikki's close at that end, like Kimberly was saying in the chat, that kick is no joke, and that's a kick that was born from all they've been through, from the coming out and then dealing with that, and then not only having the guts to come out, but having the guts to say, I want to get on this track again. I want to be competitive, and I'm willing to make a change to do that, and they did. I know. I mean, I've written a lot about Hiltz. Frankie De La Creta wrote an excellent profile of Hiltz for Runner's World, and
you know what we really need to do, Carly. It's for the people who are interested in sports. And I grant you, not everybody is, but we ought to put together a list and throw it into our links of people who have covered sport and
people in the community,
trans people. Frankie is one. Caitlin Burns is another.
Inna Freed is in Paris right now. Inna Freed doing it for Axios right now. Inna Freed is in Paris, and she's been covering games. She was on MSNBC talking about the boxing controversy. She was on Capehart a few days ago. So there's people doing it, but I mean, whether you care about sport or not,
let's face it. You and I are just sort of in it.
Yeah,
but
the thing
go on. You go on and tie it together, because
to me, I mean, one thing. Why I root for Nikki Hiltz is simple. One, when they run an event I love and do it well. Two, they've been true to themselves in every regard, and they've kept competing, and they've kept getting better. And number three, not only are they competing, they spoke out. I mean, Hiltz, in the Axios article, Freed did a short interview with Hiltz in Paris, and Nikki spoke out about all the anti-trans legislation that's going through. When Hiltz won the Road 1 Mile title, they did that in Des Moines, Iowa. That was in Des Moines. During the time when the governor they have out there, the virulently anti-trans Kim Reynolds, just passed and signed that legislation, had the big to-do with Riley Gaines there, and Ainsley Arizin, who's a young runner at the University of Arkansas, who may be at the 28 Olympics, who is a part of that NCAA lawsuit and whatnot. Nikki made it a point at that moment, and after winning the Drake relays, where they spoke out. At the U.S. National Championships last year, they spoke out. At Olympic trials this year, they spoke out. And even on this Olympic this Olympic platform, they're using it to speak out. So no, when you're willing to use your platform and uplift the people, that you got my heart when you do that as an athlete. And Nikki's done it, so it's easy to cheer for them. And I hope, and like I said, take it to the Hiltz Saturday. My heart is all in for Nikki Hiltz to find a way to pull an upset. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see, like a Hiltz 1, Kipyegon 2, El St. Pierre 3. Because if nothing else, that would put a nice bow on the resurgence of American distance running in these games, in addition to how great American sprinting was in these games, and just a great all-around performance. I'd love to see it. I really would.
Yeah. We just need to stop letting people like Riley Gaines and Logan Paul and J.K. Rowling police who can participate in what sports based on the vibe checks alone.
Well, what we're
And what I really want to tell this audience, just from my perspective, is Rowling doesn't care about sport. She cares about what she cares about, which is being a bigot. And she's obviously not in it for the money. Riley Gaines doesn't really care about sport. She cares about the issue, and she's in it for the money. I think it's really important to realize why sport is the focus of Donald Trump. Why I'm going to ban men from competing against women. It's a fake issue. Absolutely fake issue, and nothing proves it more than the fact that no man has competed against any woman in these games. Never been a man, never gonna be a man, with the exception of a trans man. It doesn't, that shatters the mold.
Which
shatters the mold.
They don't have this.
I mean, the press completely missed that story too. Hergy Bakladon.
It always does, because they have a narrative.
They missed.
And what I try to convey to
that's why you need to be given to our the Patreon for Transposition Sports. Please kick it in a little bit, because we told you about that story. We told you about that.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the thing.
We stay on top of it here.
The reason why I put the effort in for Transposition Sports that I do, and I know not everybody's into sports, but I put the effort in because I see the effort that Ember puts in, and Bree puts in, and Stephanie puts in, and I realize I gotta step my game up to match their game. And that's what we try to do, because we try to step our games up. And we're all working to step our game up, because you especially other trans people, you demand that of us, that we step our game up and we tell our stories. And that's
and we tell your stories
out there. If you got a story to tell, we got room for you to tell it. And I'm going to put this out to all, especially if you're young and trans and you want to be a journalist, please DM me, hit me up. I'm more than willing to set you on the path, give you the strength of the experience I got, help get you on the way, help you tell a story. Because these days you don't need to be in a TV network to tell a story. All you need is if you have a smartphone with a camera and a little bit of editing know-how, you can do this. And we're asking you to tell your stories. There's a local story going on where you're at. Hey, put it together and let us know about it. And if it's good, we'll run it. Because if it's worth it, if it's good, we'll run that thing. Because Transpositions this new show works. It works. It's of you, for you, by you.
We're a co-op.
You are our newsroom. Yes, you are our newsroom. You're our reporter corps. So get out there, and I'm calling y'all out. I'm not calling you out. I'm calling you all in to be a part of this, because we do it for you. And I want to give, and that's something. And Kimberly, you flatter me, because that's what I try to do. you just don't talk about them being trans. You give stats, you give them respect. But that's me being that's me being in sports journalism for 30 years. And that's something I try to do, whether I do it here or do it for out sports. First and foremost, these are athletes. So I want to give Nikki Hiltz their respect as an athlete. Give Cece Telford their respect as an athlete. Give Mac Beggs his respect as an athlete.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot going on with I want to give that next Alana McLaughlin, that next Pat Manuel, that next whoever. There's some kid out there right now who's being told they can't play. He can't play. She can't play. Well, I'm here to tell you, yes, you can, and you will get your opportunity to shine. And we're going to fight to make sure that door is open.
It was so nice to hear.
We're going to make sure that the parents and the students and the teachers in the RSUs, like in Union, Maine, are going to be standing with you to make that happen. And ain't nobody going to stand in your way or our way to make for a better way.
Carly, I wanted to mention before I forget, thank you for bringing that clip of with Patricio. I'd never heard his voice before. I always saw clips of him fighting, but it was nice to put a voice to the face.
Well, I've done full interviews with Pat Manuel, and Pat is just one of the best. And Pat's got a fight coming up next month. Pat's got another fight coming up. Gonna try and see if he can get back on the winning side of things. Lost his last fight. He's 3-1 overall, but he's got another fight. He's got a fight coming up, and he's got a fight coming up. I have found out that the documentary that was done on Alana McLaughlin will be released next month. Finally, it's been 2 years. And so that'll be interesting. And by the way, it's been almost 3 years since her debut MMA fight. That's been 3 years away too long. If you're in about the 145-pound classification and you think you got something, Alana McLaughlin, and especially some people have been bad-mouthing Alana for the last 3 years. You know what? Alana stays in shape. She stays ready. So
you can go look.
Call her people and get a fight date.
She's on Twitter and she shows off her muscles and her abs and everything.
I mean,
girl's got it going on with
she's on Twitter, not too hard to find. So look, if you think you got a little something, have your people call her people. Let's get a fight date. I mean, she's waited too long for fight number 2. I mean, Pat Manuel had to wait 4 years between the debut fight and the second fight. It's ridiculous.
Pat's 4-1 though, isn't he?
Yeah, he's 3-1 now.
3-1.
He won first 3, lost his last fight, but getting ready for a new one. But see, that's what it comes down to. And I mean, even after these Olympics are over, and you see people like, I mean, Herge got in, and that's great. But there's one thing I'd love to see. I mean, I'd like to see that ridiculous. I'd like to see 2 things from the NCAA. One, fight the lawsuit and have it thrown out because it's nonsense. And number 2, I'd like to see the NCAA tell the world governing, we won't lean on the world governing bodies. We've had regulation that's worked, and that's been fair to transgender student athletes, well, cisgender student athletes, and we will continue, because I don't think it's right that Sadie Schreiner should be denied a chance at a national championship next year. I don't think that's right that she should be denied an opportunity to continue in the sport when she's been legal to continue in the sport, but because of a spoiled sport, former University of Kentucky swimmer, and the NCAA caving into a lot of nonsense, Schreiner will be robbed of that chance. That's not right to me. It will never sit right.
I'm gonna get up on my little soapbox just for a second. Stephanie. Pragmatic Crystal just posted something in our Discord, which I'm looking at, and there's I don't know this channel. Maybe you do, Bree. Open Talk Conversations with Christians is the name of this channel. Open Talk, Olympics, Science, Church, and State. Now, for all of you people out there who come into our side chat and say, sports. What is this with sports? I don't understand sports. That's not how the culture views it. And I think you all need to catch up on how the culture views sport. It's a part of our common existence.
It'd be like excluding trans people from music.
When you get headlines like this, as clickbait on YouTube, Olympics, Science, Church, and State, you know what you're going to get. And you know that Olympics is part of a conversation about church and state, about how we live. And when you say sport doesn't matter, when you tell me that when I go to church, I'm a woman, when I vote, I'm a woman, when I go and get my driver's license, I'm a woman, and when I file my taxes, I'm a woman, and when I go to the grocery store, I'm a woman, but when I'm on a pitch, on a race course, on a baseball diamond, in anything to do with sport, I'm a man. Guess what? It don't fucking work.
All right. Well, my ladies, it's been a nice run tonight. I think we're probably going to wrap things up here unless we got anything that we haven't covered yet. I do want to tell everybody, I'm like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm more active on Threads now. Speaking of Sadie Schreiner, she's just started posting on Threads here this week. So if you want to follow what Sadie's up to, she's over there. She also, when she posts on her Instagram, it feeds it over to Threads, and she's a cutie too, so you don't want to see those cute pictures, and she does great photography as well. That's what I think that's what she majored in, right? Or she's majoring in.
I want candy.
But yeah, excluding trans people from sports is like excluding trans people from the arts, or excluding you can't just carve people out of a facet of the human experience, right?
Right.
Oh, anyway,
that's the big takeaway for all of us, really.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody who stuck around and watched us till the end. This has been the Transpositions Weekly. We will see you back here next Thursday. That's 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, which would be 6 Mountain and 5 Pacific.
And 0 hour Coordinated Universal Time on Friday.
Which is midnight Greenwich time, or Greenwich time, right?
That's UTC, yeah. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, good night. Good night.
Good night, everyone. And Nikki. Oi,
Nikki!
oi.
There are many.
Say that again?
Have you ever heard of gynecomastia?
I had it.
And so did you have that fixed?
Yes, I did.
And did that make you feel affirmed in your gender and comfortable in your body?
No, when I was in the Navy, nobody knows this, by the way. Jesus.
Now I'm revealing I need a HIPAA form to sign here or something. You don't have to talk about it. No, what I'm saying is, yes, I've had that myself and had it surgically removed when I was in the Navy. Yeah. And do you feel more comfortable in your body and more affirmed in your gender because of that?
Well, it wasn't a gender thing for me. It was the fact, well, I can't even get into it now because it had nothing to do with my gender. Okay. So it had to do with the fact that it looked really odd.